you all today? So we are back here for our class for today. Before we start with the class, I am here with another thought for you all today, and today's thought for the day is so that was the thought for the day. Today now we are going to continue with our class with our chapter The Enemy by Pearl S. Buck. In the previous video we had seen how Hannah and Sadao, they are thinking what to be done with the stranger, that is the enemy, an American. Finally they decide to take him to their home. "Oh, the mat," she cried. "Yes, it is ruined," Sadao replied, as though he did not care. "Help me to turn him," he commanded her. She obeyed him without a word, and he began to wash the man's back carefully. "Yummy would not wash him," she said. "Did you wash him then?" Sadao asked, not stopping for a moment his swift, concise movements. "Yes," she did. So now what had Hannah done? Hannah had only cleaned the front portion. She did not turn him back and clean the back also. So Sadao had to do it. And while doing so, Hannah informs him that Yummy did not wash him. So husband is asking, "Did you wash him?" And she says, "Yes." So the conversation goes on. He did not seem to hear her, but she was used to his absorptions when he was at work. She wondered for a moment if it mattered to him what was the body upon which he worked so long, as it was for the work he did so excellently. So now they both are talking, and Sadao is asking questions. Hannah is answering, but Hannah knows it very well that whatever she is saying, Sadao isn't listening. He is so much engrossed, he is so much absorbed, he is so much lost in doing his work. And this she knows because she had been with him for a longer time, and she knows that when Sadao is working, he is only thinking about his work and nothing else. "You will have to give the anesthetic if he needs it," he said. So he said to Anna that if he needs anesthesia, you need to give him that. She repeated blankly. But never have I." So she says, "But never I have given any anesthesia to anybody." "It is easy enough," he said impatiently. He was taking out the packing now, and the blood began to flow more quickly. You remember the moss that he had used to pack. So now he was removing that moss, and as he removed it, the blood started flowing profusely with great speed. He peered into the wound with a bright surgeon's light fastened on his forehead. So he had a light on his forehead. He was wearing that band which doctors wear. Even if you have seen the people who are working in the mines, they also have that, right? So with that he was trying to take a close look of the wound. "The bullet is still there," he said with cool interest. "Now I wonder how deep this rock wound is. If it is not too deep, it may be that I can get the bullet. But the bleeding is not superficial. He has lost much blood." So he says that the bullet is still inside. After taking a close look of the wound, he comes to the conclusion that the bullet is inside and it has to be removed. But I don't know, he says, how deep it is. Right? It has to be removed. But the bleeding is not superficial. It's not only from the upper layers, but it's coming from deep within. And he has already lost a lot of blood. If I try to remove the bullet, there are more chances there will be loss of more blood. At this moment, Anna choked. He looked up and saw her face, the color of sulfur. So, Hannah had turned yellow. She's turned all pale. "Don't faint," he said sharply. He did not put down his exploring instrument. "If I stop now, the man will surely die." She clapped her hands to her mouth and leaped up and ran out of the room. Outside in the garden, he heard her retching but he went on with his work. So Hannah was deeply moved. She could not bear the sight when Sadao was operating. So what did she do? She just tried to cover her mouth. Maybe she felt nauseous. She wanted to vomit. And she just ran out of the house to the garden. Sadao continued with his work, though he could hear her puking out over there, vomiting over there. It will be better for her to empty her stomach, he thought. He had forgotten that of course she had never seen an operation, but her distress and his inability to go to her at once made him impatient and irritable with this man who lay like dead under his knife. So in treating this man, Sadao completely forgot that his wife had never witnessed the operation. And that's the reason why at the sight of blood and all this, she felt retreated. She felt like vomiting. And so he says it is better, she vomits and she throws out everything what is there in her stomach. But he was at the same time feeling very angry. He was angry on this man who was lying under his knife over whom he was operating, because of him he could not go and take care of his wife outside. So he was very angry over this. This man, he thought, there is no reason under heaven why he should live. So while operating also he is getting the same thoughts as a patriotic person would think about his country and his enemy. Why am I treating this man? What good he is going to do if he is alive? He will be killing my countrymen again. Unconsciously, this thought made him ruthless and he proceeded swiftly. In his dream, the man moaned, but Sadao paid no heed except to mutter at him. So, now, with all these thoughts, Sadao is a bit angry, but he is very skillfully trying to operate, and when he is operating, though unconscious, the man is moaning, and as a doctor he is only muttering to him, maybe he is trying to console him. Groan, he muttered, groan if you like. I am not doing this for my pleasure. In fact, I do not know why I am doing it. So again he is angry and he is saying, groan. Okay, you are getting pain, you are feeling pain. So go on groaning. That is the sound which you make when you have pain. Right? But he says, even if you groan, if you like, you can groan. But I am not doing this for my own pleasure. I know you can feel the pain, but this is not giving me any happiness. Right? In fact, he says, I don't know why am I doing this. Why am I treating you? I am not even able to understand this. The door opened and there was Hannah again. Where is the anesthetic? She asked in a clear voice. Sadao motioned with his chin. It is as well that you come back, he said. This fellow is beginning to stir. So maybe after vomiting and all, Hannah feels better and she is able to gather the courage. And with that courage, she comes back to the room and she is asking Sadao, where is the anesthesia? I would be giving him an anesthesia. So Sadao feels relief and he says, good that you have come. It is needed now because this man has started making movements because of pain. So we need to give him an anesthesia. She had the bottle and some cotton in her hand. But how shall I do it? She asked. Simply saturate the cotton and hold it near his nostrils. Sadao replied without delaying for one moment. The intricate detail of this work. When he breathes badly, move it away a little. So she says, how do I do it? I don't know how to give anesthesia. To which Sadao guides her. Then you have to take a good quantity on cotton and take it near to his nose. Right? With that what will happen? He will inhale the fumes. and if he starts breathing badly, that is now he's on a verge to get unconscious. So at that time what you can do, you can just remove the cotton, take the cotton away from his nose. She crouched close to the sleeping face of the young American. It was a piteously thin face, she thought, and the lips were twisted. The man was suffering whether he knew it or not. Watching him, she wondered if the stories they heard sometimes of the sufferings of prisoners were true. So now she goes close to the man, and now this time she is taking a close look at his face. His face is all wounded, right? And then she is trying to imagine that the stories that she had heard, that if what tortures, what suffering a person has to face as a prisoner. So were those stories true? So looking at his face, she is trying to think about all these things. They came like flickers of rumor, told by word of mouth and always contradicted. So she says, whatever stories she has heard up till now, they were like rumors, not true. And it changed from mouth to mouth. Maybe I say something else, she says something else, and then so on. Every other person will have another story for the same, for the torture that a soldier, that an enemy suffers. So in the newspapers, the reports were always that whatever the Japanese armies went, the people received them gladly, with cries of joy at their liberation. But sometimes she remembered such men as General Takima, who at home beat his wife cruelly, though no one mentioned it now that he had fought so victoriously in battle in Manchuria. So now she is saying that in newspaper it has always comes, right? How the Japanese armies behave with the people. And then she is citing an example of some general, Takima, that this man used to beat his wife cruelly at home. But at the battlefield, he was very brave to fight the enemies. If a man like that could be so cruel to a woman in his power, would he not be cruel to one like this, for instance? So she is now able to understand, and she is trying to relate a man who is so cruel, so violent towards his wife. Just imagine how cruel and how violent that man can be towards enemy. For example, this man who is here lying on the bed, he would be so cruel towards him. She hoped anxiously that this young man had not been tortured. It was at this moment that she observed deep red scars on his neck, just under the ear. So this man was very young, just 25 years of age. So now a bit of sympathetic feeling she is getting. And she says, I wish that this man should not have been tortured so much. And at that same time, she is able to see some wounds near his ears. Those scars, she murmured, lifting her eyes to Saddam. But he did not answer. At this moment, he felt the tip of his instrument strike against something hard, dangerously near the kidney. All thought left him. He felt only the purest pleasure. He probed with his finger, delicately familiar with every atom of this human body. So, when Anna tries to grab Saddam's attention towards the scar under his ears, but he does not reply, because right now when he is operating, he has already got the sense of the bullet. The bullet which was closely stuck near the kidney. So he tried to remove it out, dig it out. His old American professor of anatomy had seen to that knowledge. Ignorance of human body is the surgeon's cardinal sin, sirs. So now he remembers the words given by his professors in America, that when you are doing something, when you are operating on a human body, you should not ignore anything. He had thundered at his classes year after year to operate without as complete knowledge of the body as if you had made it Anything less than that is a murder. So he is remembering all his college days, all his days when he was there in America for his studies of doctors, surgeons, medicines. So he says that how it would be to work on a body which you don't know anything about, right? So things are like you should know everything about the human body, every part of the body before operating on that body. It is not quite at the kidney, my friend, Sadao murmured. It was the habit to murmur to the patient when he forgot himself in an operation. So earlier he felt that the bullet was very close to the kidney, but then he realized that no, it is not very close to the kidney. And then he is murmuring, he is talking to the patient, as he is always in habit of doing that. My friend, he always called his patients, and so now he did, forgetting that this was his enemy. So this is the habit. He was habitual to treat people of his own country. So he would call them friend. Right? But now he has become habitual of it. So when he is operating the enemy, he uses the same term for him, my friend. Whereas while operating, he forgets that the person on whom he is operating is his enemy. Then quickly, with the cleanest and the most precious of incisions, the bullet was out. The man quivered, but he was still unconscious. Nevertheless, he muttered a few English words. So, he was now successful in removing the bullet out of his body. And when he removed the bullet, the man really felt that pain, but he was unconscious. So, he was unconsciously muttering few words. Guts. He muttered, choking. "The God, my guts." Sadao, Hana cried sharply. "Hush," Sadao said. So, as the enemy started speaking, muttering, Hana was scared. So, she calls on to Sadao, and Sadao just tries to hush her, just tries to tell her, stay quiet. The man sank again into silence so profound that Sadao took up his wrist, hating the touch of it. Yes, there was still a pulse, so faint, so feeble, but enough. If he wanted the man to live, to give hope. So he again, after completing the operation, he felt his pulse and he could still feel the pulse. And he was happy that now this man would survive. But certainly I do not want this man to live, he thought. So then the second thought comes, but I don't want this man to be alive. No more anesthetic, he told Hana. He turned as swiftly as though he had never paused, and from his medicines he chose a small vial and from it filled a hypodermic and thrust it into the patient's arm. So now he is giving him injection. Then putting down the needle, he took the man's wrist again. The pulse under his finger fluttered once or twice and then grew stronger. So after giving the injection, the pulse was now slowly coming to its normal pace. This man will live in spite of all, he said to Hana and sighed. So he took a deep breath and he said, after all these injuries, after all these struggles and tortures, after the surgery, this man is now going to stay alive, he is going to live. The young man woke, so weak, his eyes grew so terrified when he perceived where he was, that Hana felt compelled to apologize. She herself served him, for none of the servants would enter the room. So after some days, the man has recovered his sense, right? And he's got blue eyes, which are very scary, which are very terrifying. So no servant was ready to serve this man. Hana had to do everything herself for this man. When she came in the first time, she saw his summon, his small strength, to be prepared for some fearful thing. Don't be afraid, she begged him softly. So now, when first time she came into her room, she saw him summon his small strength, summon to gather his strength and maybe he was scared because he knew that he is at an enemy's place. He is also considering the same thing. But Hannah very softly tries to tell him, don't be afraid. How come you speak English? He guessed. So he is surprised to hear a Japanese lady speak in English. I was a long time in America, she replied. She was that he wanted to reply. She saw that he wanted to reply to that, but he could not. And so she knelt and fed him gently from the porcelain spoon. He ate unwillingly, but still he ate. So she tried to feed him and unwillingly he didn't want it to, but finally he ate whatever was given to him. Now you will soon be strong, she said, not liking him and yet moved to him to comfort him. So that feeling of hatred as an enemy is still there, but still she is trying to do everything that would comfort him as a patient, as a human. He did not answer. When Sadao came in the third day after the operation, he found the young man sitting up, his face bloodless with the effort. So when Sadao entered into this room after 3 days, he saw the man was sitting. He was pale, right? Bloodless, he was pale and with effort. So whatever efforts were made, they tried to feed him good food and all, but still that glow on his face could not be brought. Lie down, said Sadao. Do you want to die? He forced the man down gently and strongly and examined the wound. You may kill yourself if you do this sort of things, he scolded. So the doctor told him to lie down and take rest. Right? And do not do these things, do not sit, do not try to force yourself in doing anything, otherwise you will die. What are you going to do with me? The boy muttered. He looked just now barely 17. Are you going to hand me over? So now, after he is treated, after maybe he is clean and all thing, so they can exactly guess his age. He was just near about 17 years old. And then he is asking, what are you going to do with me? Are you not going to hand me over to the prison as a prisoner to the army or the police? For a moment, Sadao did not answer. He finished his examination and then pulled the silk quilt over the man. I do not know myself what I shall do with you, he said. I ought, of course, to give you to the police. You are a prisoner of war. No, do not tell me anything. He put up his hand as he saw the young man was about to speak. Do not even tell me your name unless I ask it. So he says, yes, that's what I have thought. Once you get better, we're going to hand you to the police. Right? And don't talk to me. Don't tell me anything. I don't even want to know what's your name. Until and unless I ask you, please do not tell me even your name. I don't want to know anything. I am not interested in knowing anything about you. They looked at each other for a moment and then the young man closed his eyes and turned his face to the wall. Okay, he whispered, his mouth a bitter line. Outside the door, Hannah was waiting for Sadao. He saw at once that she was in trouble. So now, he made the man lie down, he covered him with the quilt, and then he saw that Hannah was waiting for him outside. Sadao, Yummy tells me the servants feel they cannot stay if we hide this man here anymore, she said. She tells me that they are saying that you and I were so long in America that we have forgotten to think of our own country first. They think we like Americans. So now they say that the servants are refusing to work at our place. Why? Because they are thinking that we have been in America for a long time. So maybe that's the reason why we like Americans.